And welcome back, everybody. The Old Gab Box radio show and podcast brought to you by our friends at Casa de Campo in the Dominican Republic. I'll be down in December. They cut the ribbon on Teeth of the Dog. That is that incredible course designed by the late, great Pete Dye. Can't wait to get down. If you want a great vacation, family, or golf, check out casadecampo.com. All right, our next guest is really one of the all-time great quarterbacks in Florida Gators history, Shane Matthews. In fact, when Coach Spurrier took the job, Shane took the job as QB1, and the rest is history. Had a great career, and that, of course, preceded Danny Werfel and Tim Tebow, and the rest is history. And now Shane joins us because, Shane, as you know, the Gators are in everybody's conversation now. I mean, what's going on down in Gainesville?
Well, we're looking for a new coach.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of names out there, but I think they've targeted one guy, and hopefully they get him, and will be relevant immediately.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that, but I also wanted to plug your podcast, which I know you say is a hobby. It's called Pop Up with Matthews. It's on every day for about an hour. You can go to YouTube and check it out. Shane, everybody's talking about it. You have a big audience that's growing, so I know it was a hobby, but do you sense that maybe this is something that may grow into something pretty special?
Well, it's crazy the amount of people that listen to our program.
I know.
I've been doing it for 5 years. I had no experience in broadcasting or anything, and I was asked to do it, and I was very reluctant, but decided to do it. And I have a good people. All I do is just turn the show on and go. It's via Zoom, but you can watch it on any podcast platform. It's called Pot Up with Matthews in the morning, and we have people around the world that listen to it. It's crazy to me how many people listen to it.
You know, I was at the RSM Classic last year at the end of the PGA Tour season, and the guy who drives for me, he's a Gator graduate, great guy. And he told me at the time, he goes, "Have you ever heard Shane's show every morning?" And I was like, "No." And he said, "You need to listen to it." And he's one of your loyal listeners. And he gets
Sea Island?
Yeah, in Sea Island, yeah.
Yeah.
And he gets a big kick out of it because you not only talk Gator stuff, but also you have a lot of opinions.
Everything.
Yeah,
we talk a lot of golf on my program.
There you go. There you go. Well, let me know if you ever need a golf guy on. But let's get back to this Lane Kiffin situation, Shane, because, you know, I remember back, obviously you remember when Coach Spurrier came. It was a no-brainer. He'd done a great job at Duke, and just all the stars were aligned, and the rest is history. And then I think the same thing when Jeremy Foley reached out to Urban Meyer. It really was a Notre Dame, Florida thing, and Urban thought Florida was the better situation at the time, and it was. And now, what do you think, Shane? I mean, Scott Strickland and the power brokers at Florida, have they reached out to Lane Kiffin? Are you sensing that conversations maybe behind the scenes have taken place?
Well, I would think so. I think that's how it works, right? I think Lane Kiffin is the number one choice. I'm an Ole Miss guy. I grew up at Ole Miss. My dad played at Ole Miss. My mom was a cheerleader at Ole Miss. I went to every football, baseball, basketball camp there was at Ole Miss. I went to every game until my senior year in high school. I love Ole Miss. But what Lane's done there is phenomenal. But there's no comparison in the brands, right? The Ole Miss people get mad when I say that, but it's there's not. The resources, the school, the programs, the full athletic programs. Has Ole Miss been better than us in football the last 5 or 6 years? Absolutely they have. But it's because of Lane Kiffin. As soon as Lane leaves, they're going to go back to the drawing board.
Well, I mean, the Gators did beat Ole Miss last year.
Right, but the overall record.
But I hear you.
Lane has been phenomenal what he's done with that program since he's taken over.
But, you know, and I know you've seen the documentary, the show they did on Lane 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I found it just fascinating because he does seem to be in a very different part of his life, spiritually, physically, mentally. He's moved the family to Oxford. I mean, his son is a high school quarterback there, Shane. I mean, so do you sense after watching that maybe he's found a home in Oxford, Mississippi?
I don't think so. I mean, coaches move.
Yes.
Right? And let's be honest, Lane's one of the premier coaches in all of football. He's going to leave Oxford at some point. When is that going to be? Look, there's high school football everywhere you go. There's plenty of, he's got a daughter that's on the volleyball team at Southern California at USC. Look, I get all that. And again, I think it's going to have to come down to Lane's decision, what he wants to do. But you know how the coaches work. These great coaches, they're hard to find. They think differently than the normal human being. They know what the goal in life is from a coaching aspect. They don't want to just, look, there's a ceiling at Ole Miss. People don't want to hear that. And I'm not picking on them because I love the Ole Miss football program. But you can do more things at a Florida and LSU and Auburn and Texas and Oklahoma. Those are facts. And I just know how these coaches think, how they operate. They want to have a chance to win it all. And the landscape of college football has changed because of the portal and all that and the 12 team playoff, and it's going to expand. So he has a chance to make the playoffs. But the different athletes that you get at the bigger brands, that's a fact. Like I said, I think it's going to have to be Lane's decision what he wants to do. But I do think he will be our coach because I just know how those people operate. Well, he'll be coaching in front of 95,000 people every week.
Yeah, and they're going to refurbish the stadium. At least I saw those plans. It's going to be even better. You know, it is interesting, Shane, though, because it really doesn't come down to money. I mean, all these coaches make somewhere between $8 and $12 million. I mean, you know, it's all, it's a few million here or there. But it really comes down to the support you have with your program, right? And NIL money, et cetera. And I think what you're saying is obviously there's more at the University of Florida.
Well, Ole Miss has deep pockets as well. I think, Keith Carter, their athletic director, Walker Jones, who's in charge of their NIL Grove Collective, they do a phenomenal job. I mean, like I said, it's amazing to me what Ole Miss has done because I grew up in the state and I follow that program and it's been fun to watch. I root for Ole Miss. But again, the brands, there's no comparison. No comparison.
You know, Coach Spurrier, and I know you're on a show with Coach and Steve Russell. Steve was on the show last week, he kind of endorsed Lane Kiffin, and he endorsed Eli Drinkowitz at Missouri. So I think Coach sees two guys who, at least from his aspect, have a vision offensively that maybe some of these other candidates don't have.
Yeah, Coach likes them both because they wear visors as well.
Sure.
They wear the visor because of Coach Spurrier. Look, Eli's done a great job at Missouri as well. Now, his schedule has been somewhat easy, if you want to say there's ever an easy SEC schedule, but they've been fortunate. But he's done a really good job there. It's a tough place to play because they kind of lull you to sleep at Mizzou. He would be a great candidate as well, but I think the Florida fan base is hoping Lane Kiffin will be the next coach. And like I said, I think he will have the opportunity to say yes or no.
Does it create a situation if Ole Miss continues with their nice run, although I think they're going to have another tough road game with Oklahoma this week. But if they go into the playoffs and the season extends, is that an issue?
No, because the portal's in January now. And this is the most important hire Florida's ever had in my lifetime. I mean, the Spurrier hire was great, but it doesn't matter if this guy's playing for the national title, whoever that coach may be, you wait and figure it out because you have to have the right guy.
And recruiting, I mean, Shane, recruiting has completely changed, right? Transfer portal, et cetera. And who knows what is in the offing here the next 2, 3, 5 years as far as maybe some rules and reg are coming down. But in reality, I think that's another thing Lane brings to the table. Obviously, he brings these guys in for a year or two, and he works wonders with them. I guess that's more credit to him.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they're a top 10 team with a kid who is was 0-star recruit, Division II quarterback. And
amazing story.
He's a very good football player. He's in a good system. He's accurate. He knows what to do with the ball, but that goes back to the coaching aspect as well. They do a great job. Lane, Charlie Weiss Jr., that whole crew on offense. Yeah, recruiting, look, all the SEC teams do great in recruiting. I think Florida, with the bigger brand, we can get more high school recruits here. Some people may argue with that. But I think, long story short, I don't care how long it takes. Our administration needs to hire the best fit for the Florida Gators, regardless of how long that takes. And that coach, whoever it is, I think kids will want to play for him, and either we keep some players or he brings his own players in. I'm not worried about the roster at all.
It is interesting, though, if Lane should say no, which, I mean, his prerogative, who knows? And Eli decides that, hey, I got a pretty good thing going here at Mizzou. I mean, where do you go from there, Shane? I guess the list grows, but there's got to be coaches out there who want to jump to Florida, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we haven't won in a long time. We've won 3 national championships since 1990. Many schools have done that, and you've won 3 in basketball. I mean, and we've won in baseball. We won in softball. We went in track. I mean, look, it's a great athletic program. It's a great school, a great place to live. I don't know how that works. Me as a fan and a former player, I'm focused on one guy, and do whatever you got to do to get that guy.
Well, I mean, it is interesting. It's fascinating because I listen to you all the time, and sounds like, I mean, he's your focus. There really is no other option.
The reason I say that is because I understand what Ole Miss is. And again, he may stay there. And if he does, I'll still root for him. But I know how these coaches, how they think. And he has a chance to win it all at the University of Florida. Not only him, but whoever the right coach is to come in here and implement his offense, his defense, and run the program at a high level. You know, people say, well, you got to hire somebody who's won a championship. Well, there's only 3 damn coaches in America that have done that.
Right.
They ain't leaving. Dabo ain't leaving. Kirby ain't leaving. Ryan Day ain't leaving. So you got to kind of roll the dice on who you think is that coach that can take your program to the next level.
Well, we'll see what happens. Hey, tell me this, and I know you do the show with Coach and you see him all the time. How is Coach Spurrier doing these days? He looks good. Is he hanging in there? I know he's getting a little older.
Yeah, he's 80. It's hard to believe he's 80 years old.
I know.
And, his body hurts like all his former players hurt.
Yeah.
But he's still sharp as a tack, and he's the ambassador. So I see him a lot during football season. He doesn't get to play his golf as much. He'll play a few holes here and there, but he still takes some shots at folks, which is great. I love it. Maybe that's why I like Lane so much, because I love his stuff on Twitter. It reminds me so much of Steve Spurrier. The problem is, if Coach was coaching today, he would still say it all at press conferences because he wouldn't know how to work Twitter.
Right.
But it's fun to watch.
It is fun, and if you ever look at that old footage when he played with the Buccaneers, and wow, did he take a pounding. That's when the NFL was absolutely ruthless, and I'm sure his body has just suffered the effects. That was a long time ago, but wow, if you ever see that footage, Shane, he took an absolute beating with those Tampa Bay Bucs teams.
Yeah, he tells me about it all the time. It was a bad football team.
It was a bad team. They didn't win a lot of games. It is funny down in Florida. I mean, and I joke, people ask me all the time about, what about your Gators? I said, hey, we're a basketball school. Come on. I mean, you got to be proud of what Todd Golden's doing.
Yeah, he can coach, man. I've been to a couple of their practices. Boy, he gets after it. It's fun to watch. He has a lot of Coach Spurrier in him too, man, and a little bit of Urban Meyer. I tell people all the time, every fan base, they get pissed off at their coaches or their administration when they're not winning. These great Hall of Fame coaches just don't fall off trees. The good Lord blessed them with the ability to be a great coach. And there's only a handful of them out there. We're fortunate we got Ty Golden because I think he's one of those guys.
And lastly, the Simpson kid at Alabama, Joel Klatt came out today, Shane, and said if he keeps playing the way he is, he could be the number 1 overall selection in the NFL draft next year. Does that surprise you?
It doesn't. I mean, Ty's played really well.
Yeah, he has.
The NFL draft, I didn't even get drafted, and I ended up 14 years in the league.
I know.
Because I didn't hit all the measurables, right? It's amazing to me how many people work in NFL organizations and watch tape and break it down, and then they still draft a guy who doesn't produce.
Right.
It blows my mind because they think that they're going to be able to change or coach that guy up. Sometimes it happens, but very seldom does it happen. You can tell when a guy can play or not. And I usually, we're talking quarterback position here. I can tell you when a guy can play or not just by, does he have a feel for the game? Can he anticipate? Is he accurate? I don't give a damn how far and how hard he throws the ball and how fast he is, because that has nothing to do with playing quarterback.
Right. And Ty Simpson seems to be checking all the boxes.
Boy, he's made some really good throws in the games that I've watched. He looks like he's got complete control of that offense, playing at a real high level, no question.
And to think he played behind Bryce Young, okay, and then didn't get a shot with Milroe for 2 years. Boy, I mean, he could have transferred, Shane. I think you got to give that kid a lot of credit. He wanted to play at Alabama, and wow, is he showing off?
Yeah, he's waited his turn, and I think it's Ryan Grubb, their offensive coordinator.
Yes,
done a really good job with him this year. Like I said, you can tell he understands what they're doing offensively. He's been smart with the football, really accurate, and the team believes in him, and that goes a long ways in college football. Does the team believe in the trigger man?
Yeah. And that's was the case with you with the Gators back in the day. We appreciate it, my man. Pop Up with Matthews is the podcast. And again, Shane does this as a hobby, but something tells me, Shane, that it's growing into something bigger.
It's big. It's bigger
Yeah.
than I ever anticipated, and we have fun. I have different guests all the time. We like to have fun on my program, and we'll continue doing it. But the next 6 weeks is going to be crazy till we get a new coach.
Yeah, we'll check back in with you. We'll see what happens. Something tells, and it's interesting too, because in all the press conferences this week, Lane really wasn't asked about the Florida job. So I thought that was interesting. Either that or maybe the media people are cooperating with him and not asking that yet. But most of the stuff was just about Oklahoma and this and that. I found that fascinating. Usually at a bigger place, maybe just a little bit bigger place, he would have been peppered with questions. But so far that hasn't been the case.
Well, maybe he said or sent who knows what he said, but you can tell these media boys, look, don't ask me any questions about coaching jobs. We're going to focus on our opponent, and that's what they should do. Look, he's got a good football team, and they have a chance to make the playoffs, but they got a tough one at Oklahoma this week.
Yeah, and I thought that was interesting too, as he talked about potentially Coach Venables stealing signs. He was talking about changing the signals.
That too, and what's interesting to me is you got the coach to the quarterback communicator now, like they do in the NFL. You don't really need to throw a whole lot of signs out there.
Yeah, I mean, you're actually talking to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. And he said he called Hugh Freeze after the game and said, hey, I think he had all your signals. And I thought, okay, that was interesting.
Well, what they should do is just kind of muddle huddle, just talk to Trinidad Chambliss, and have him call a play kind of in the huddle. An old way of doing it, right? Nobody huddles anymore.
No. And I think Lane's probably been doing that for years anyway, one way or another, maybe sending somebody in with the player, et cetera. But he puts a lot on his quarterback's shoulders, that's for sure.
He should. He does a really good job, man. He, like I said, reminds me so much of how Coach Spurrier coached. He coaches them hard. He's a great play caller. He's not scared to take chances. Great play callers call the right play at the right time, and he does a phenomenal job of that.
Yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait to see what happens here in the next few weeks. And I can't wait to see what happens Florida, Georgia. Who knows? So you don't sound confident.
Well, we haven't beaten them in a long time.
I know.
But Billy Gonzalez is going to be the interim coach. If I were him, I would call reverses. I would call double passes, fake punts. Why? Who cares, right?
Well, Georgia has given up some yards through the air.
Yeah.
First half against Alabama, and then last week, first 5 drives for Ole Miss.
Well, those are 2 really good offenses, though.
Yeah, it's a little bit different scenario, so we'll see what happens. Shane, we appreciate it, my man. I know you were traveling today, and I do appreciate you making time for us. Thanks, my friend.
Anytime. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, buddy.